Good morning, fourth graders. This is Miss Ferguson, and it is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020. We are continuing reading The Hope Chest, and we are going to be talking about more strategies and skills for when we are reading fiction. In particular, today we're going to be talking about how characters' actions affect the plot. So our learning target is I can explain how a character's actions help drive the plot of a story. So, how do characters affect the plot? Well, the plot gives us the action of the story, and the characters are the ones who are doing the action. If you change the characters, the plot would change as well. Think about this. Have you heard of or seen the movie Jaws? It's about a great white shark. Do you think the plot would change if the main character in that movie were not a big shark, but was instead a friendly, happy dolphin? I think that would change the plot a great deal. So that goes to show the characters can play a very, very big role. You should use an if then strategy to see how a character affects the plot. So think about if a character had done something differently, what would have happened? Would it change the events or change the plot significantly? Sometimes you'll hear us say that characters drive the story. So, like you're driving a car, characters are responsible for driving those events in a story. Characters' emotions and feelings help us get into the story. They're what suck us into what we're reading and make us want to keep reading. Characters take us places and let us see what they're seeing. Characters are always changing to help the story move along. If a character stayed exactly the same and didn't try new things or change themselves or try to fix something, then the story wouldn't move along and it probably wouldn't be that interesting. So, those ever changing characters are what helps move that plot along and keep us interested as a reader. Characters also cause problems, but they also fix them. So those problems that arise can be interesting, scary, funny, but then we also get to see how the character fixes it, which changes even more events in the story and continues the story along. Characters react to problems they encounter. So we should pay attention to how characters react to the different problems and challenges that they encounter. And characters interact with other characters in a story. So when you're paying attention as you read, characters are sometimes major and they're sometimes minor. But even those minor characters, you should pay attention to the words they say, things they do, how they interact with others, because even those minor characters can impact the story. You should be thinking about a character's words, actions, and interactions within significant events in the story. And think about how they're related to the story, the overall problem, and the solution. So, why do I need to understand this? Why is understanding how a character's actions affect the plot an important strategy for a fourth grade reader? Well, when you understand how a character affects the plot, you can see the influence a specific character has on the plot. So, you can see how major or minor a character's influence is. You can also see how the different parts of the story fit together, all the different elements that come together to create a great story. You can see them more clearly when you understand how a character has been affecting the plot. Also, understanding how characters affect plot can help give you some clues about the theme of the story that you are reading. Remember that the theme is the message that the author is trying to give us. So if you were reading a story where a character was facing a difficult situation, where they could either be more cautious and play it safe, or they could do something potentially more reckless, the actions of that character would actually make for a very different theme. If the character played it safe and was more cautious, then a theme might be that happiness is right where you are if you could only see what's in front of you. But if the character had chosen to do something more reckless and take a crazy chance, then you might have a theme of, well, sometimes you have to face a huge challenge to find happiness. So, not only do the characters affect the plot, but the characters' actions within the plot can also change what the theme of the story would be. So, some tips for understanding characters. Pay attention to the dialogue. So, pay attention to what's being said. Remember that there are two types of dialogue: dialogue that is spoken and that we see with quotation marks, and dialogue that is internal, that a character is saying to his or herself, that we often see in italics. So, pay attention to that dialogue. Also, watch for descriptions of a character's thoughts and feelings. Sometimes the author will give us descriptions of how a character really feels and what they really think. And pay attention to how a character acts and how they react to different situations. How you can describe a character and how they affect the plot. First, describe the character to yourself. Talk or write about the character's traits and their feelings. Then, once you've done that, describe the problem that the character is facing. Then, describe the actions that the character took to resolve that problem. Now that we've talked about how important characters are and how their actions impact the rest of the plot and the rest of the story, you're going to practice this independently today. You're going to read chapter 2 of the Hope Chest, and then you're going to answer the questions within your packet. Specifically, you're going to be thinking and writing about how Violet's actions in this particular chapter, chapter 2, affect others. What were her actions? And what does this say about her character? So you're thinking about her actions, what they tell us about her as a character, and how they impact others and impact the story. Have a great day, girls, and don't forget to complete your other daily assignments and, of course, send pictures of your completed work.